Welcome back to another episode of Helos and Homies. I'm here with someone I describe as the Godfather of Australian music, of Australian hip-hop. I was actually quite filthy at Mark Boris when he mentioned that, because I've been mentioning you as the Godfather ever since I started this. Oh, wow. And I was like, I want to introduce Hauie as the Godfather, and I got to the end, and he goes, "Oh, you're quite the Godfather of Australian music." I thought, oh my God.
I'll take that though. I'll take that again. Yeah.
For those wondering who Hauie is, we'll let you introduce yourself, Hauie, but essentially, basically the mentor of the Australian music scene that all comes from experience of radio, been an artist yourself, now a self-published author. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And yeah, a few other things, but let's get into it. Who is Hauie?
Who is Hauie? Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, man.
All right,
it's an honor to be on your podcast. I've watched a lot of episodes, and it's good to be a part of the story.
Yeah.
Who is Hauie? Just someone that's just passionate about music and family and community.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key reason why I am still here and doing what I do.
Yeah.
And just that love for something, you just continuously do it regardless of money or pressure or whatever. It's just in me, and I love it. So yeah.
That's amazing. Let's go back quickly. You're from Queanbeyan.
Yeah.
I would never have picked that.
Yeah, 2620, man.
Yeah.
Struggle town, God's country is what they say.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up in Queanbeyan?
It was actually lovely, man. I think when you grow up, you're from the mountains, right?
Yeah.
I think when you grow up, it is what it is where
Yeah.
you live. You don't know otherwise until you start traveling and you realize like either your town is you're more appreciative of your town, or you're like, oh wow, that really was a shithole.
Yeah.
But Queanbeyan, for those who don't know, Queanbeyan is like a regional New South Wales, but on the border of Canberra. So we were, they call it country town with city benefits.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a suburb of Canberra, but people from Canberra kind of looked down on us because we were like the rough end part of town.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was beautiful. I had a lot of relatives, had a lot of friends. But when you are into a niche kind of music or sport or whatever, it is very lonesome because there's not many people that are listening to it because it's all heavy metal or whatever when it was coming up. And then I loved hip hop, and there was probably 3 or 4 or 5 kids that like hip hop. Yeah. And you kind of dress the way you dress, and you just like stuck out like a sore thumb. Yeah, right. And outside of that, being Tongan too, it wasn't a big community there. Yeah, right. At that time. So, I have very fond memories, and I love going back, and funnily enough, my kids I laugh at my kids because they're eastern suburbs kids. Which is like almost the opposite, but they love going to Queanbeyan, Yeah. They love to see where, their parents, and my wife's from Queanbeyan as well, and they love to see where their parents grew up, and my parents are still there. And
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but it's a lovely town.
Yeah, childhood sweethearts with your wife?
No, but we did. Yeah, we go way back because her father and my father are from the same village in Tonga. Yeah,
wow, that is amazing.
And they came over at the same time because of my uncle, and so we grew up like around the corner from each other. I played football with her brother. We went to high school. Yeah. So we've known each other for a very long time, but it wasn't until years later we, I
met up and
I got tired of her chasing me, and so I thought, might as well give this girl a chance, man. You never know where it's gonna go. So we've been together for a long time, and
wow,
very very fortunate to have someone like her in my corner.
Yeah, it'd help, with the work you do.
I tell a lot of people because you need to find a partner that appreciates what you do. Yeah, like she doesn't. Your partner doesn't necessarily have to understand the nuances of what you do or even like what you do, but as long as they appreciate what you do, and they can understand how much something means to you, I think that's like the bare minimum of a good relationship. Yeah, because I've seen relationships where, and you've probably seen it too, where the partner's like, oh, I hate that music, or I hate what they do, and it's just always an uphill battle. Yeah, and I think as long as they appreciate what you do and understand how happy that makes you, it's a good foundation.
Yeah.
There's some lovers tips and marriage tips for you lovers out there.
I'll take them into my relationship.
Yeah, put it in your notebook, man.
Yeah. I will. And so there's yarns. I did my research on you, so I sat there for I think it was 4 or 5 hours over the past 2 days.
Oh wow, probably sick of me by now.
No, can't get enough of learning. And so you have this yarn where you used to go into the city from the morning bus from Queanbeyan, which was, I'd imagine, 6 or 7 a.m. Hey.
Yeah, I think it was 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. This is in the 90s or early 2000s?
Yeah, this is like during high school and even after. So yeah, it's early, mid to late 90s.
Yeah,
because I wasn't really driving then, and friends weren't driving. So
yeah,
later we drove up, but yeah, in the early 90s it was a 4-hour bus ride.
Yeah, and you'd go into the city and you'd go to record shops because Canberra only had one, was it?
Yeah. Canberra had Impact Records, which is an institution. They had some imports coming in. And we had Central Station there for a little bit. But, Sydney had everything. They had Central Station, Lounge Room, which turned into Next Level, Soul Sense, Anthem Records, Red Eye Records, a lot of these great record stores. And, I would save my money up for a long time, buy a bus ticket, catch the first one 6:30 a.m. shopping all day, clothes, records, whatever, and then catch the last bus back, which was I'm thinking maybe around 6, 7 or something, because you got home pretty late. But and I think that kind of process just made you appreciate things a whole lot more.
That'd be crazy.
Crazy. No, to think about it now, I would never do that now.
Yeah.
But back then, you had to do that.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way you could get stuff. And like I said, you learn to appreciate things a lot more. You buy things, and then on the way back home, you're kind of reading the covers of the record or the CDs. And I was just laughing about this the other day, because when you used to buy CDs, and sometimes you couldn't even hear albums before you bought it.
Yeah.
You just had to
put faith in it.
Yeah. I heard about these guys, I don't know, but I'll just buy it. And then sometimes it'd be great, sometimes it'd be just shit.
Yeah.
And then when it was shit, you'd listen to it again and try and convince yourself oh no, actually half of the songs are pretty good. It was worth the $30,
Yeah.
But again, just that whole process it was very long, but I'm glad I lived that era.
Yeah, that would be a crazy era to live in. Who were the hip hop acts you were trying to snatch record for? Yeah,
so when I started doing those kind of trips, it was Cypress Hill was coming out, Redman, the Convicts, Ghetto Boys. So a lot of for me that was the golden era, late 80s, early 90s period. And more often than not, a lot of the hip hop was great. It's you can't say hip hop was better back then, because there was a lot of shit too. Yeah. But the fact that period, a lot of people were actually trying not to be like each other. Yeah, more creative. More innovative, more creative. So it made them want to try something, and you appreciated that. Yeah. And I think once big dollars came in, and then people started realizing if we sound a certain way, we'll probably get more money, and things change, but but there's always something good. Yeah. Any era.
Yeah. I back to your CD thing. I go to op shops once a week from
awesome.
Blaxland to Springwood, and I look for CDs. My best find so far is the Triple J Hottest 100 of 2003, maybe.
Right.
On a CD, but I'm looking for
was Hoods on that CD?
2003. I know Gangsta's Paradise is high up.
Oh,
that's what hooked me. Coolio.
Rest in peace, Coolio.
Yeah, rest in peace, Coolio. Yeah, I got it a week before that happened. But I'm looking forward Tribe Called Quest, anything, or 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying.
Get Rich.
Yeah, that's if I find that'll be game over. That'll be the happiest man.
What a period that one. G-Unit. Man.
Yeah, anything like that, because I was too young, but I'm born in 2000.
Yeah.
So anything back then, I'm only finding now as an adult.
Yeah.
Because I kind of grew with Joey Badass and whatnot.
Yeah.
And as you realize as you get older, who their inspirations are, you become unbelievably fascinated with what they did back then with less facilities.
Yeah, less resources.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's the beauty of, you know, I love hearing stories like that. And when I meet young people such as yourself and they kind of like, I just started listening to this.
Yeah.
For me, I just get so excited, like, oh, shit, you like that? Or you should check this out. This is where they got that sound from, or, you know, or it could be go even further back, you know, like someone, you know, like when A$AP Rocky came out, and for, you know, the A$AP Mob to have that kind of southern influence, even though they were from Harlem. But
do you reckon Outkast was a big influence on him?
Yeah, definitely. You know, but you know, then finding out A$AP Rocky's real name was Rakim, and then his mum named him after Rakim from Eric B. and Rakim, which is, you know, he's the God MC from the 80s, you know, and it's just that whole kind of connection and lineage. Like, I get excited when people love that, you know, and so, and you know, I think YP was born in 2002, and when I found that out, I was just like, what?
I was shocked because when he still had the mask on, a few of the boys, because at Columbus, you played in like private school comps, but then in the public school boys, they played in the public comps, and like the younger boys, like his age, were like, we used to verse YP in footy. I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's no way he's like.
It sounds like he's 40 years old. No, but just even the thought of him being that young, tripped me out. And kind of, you know, I mean, a lot of the artists I work with are like your age, his age, and it just always bugs me out. Like, I'm your parents' age or your uncle's age, and but I love that as well, because, you know, we all have that cool uncle or auntie that kind of always put you on stuff. You should check this out. And that's what I kind of feel like my role is for a lot of young guys.
Godfather. My funnily enough, my whole thing is actually my sister. So my sister's born in 92. She's a fair bit older than me. She used to pump the Chris Brown exclusive album. And then when I turned 10, I found Big Sean, Chris Brown, My Last. And then from Big Sean, I found Control maybe 2 years later.
Yeah, wow.
And then from there, I was hooked. Kendrick Lamar, Jay Electronica, Big Sean himself, I think, is actually very underrated. And then from there, it was just, that's how I got to where I am today.
It's very unfortunate that, I mean, obviously Kendrick had a great verse, and the controversy that surrounded that. But it was unfortunate because, like, Jay Electronica's verse on that too was wild, and Big Sean as well, and just everything just kind of got overshadowed. And that was a good period, actually, because it was kind of that whole blog era where blogs were like the place where you found out hip-hop,
what's happening,
and everyone really kind of had faith in these blogs to put you up on stuff. It was a good period.
Deep Reverence, Big Sean references not long after Nipsey died, he reached out to Kendrick straight away, and they just got rid of that. But that song just holds a special place in my heart, because I always think about and it got me onto Jay Electronica, which I think is also
Jay. It's just unfortunate. His output is just terrible.
But
you know, for me, he
Fruits of the Spirit's
I always
one of the best
feel
songs.
Like, this guy is never going to give it out. And then he will drop a song, and I'm like, he's still the best, though. You know? Because everything he drops is just
gold.
Gold. But just obviously the few and far between. But, you know, if that's the way he wants to be, then so be it. But
he's a bit different.
You always feel like, man, I wish I had an album. And he did the album with Hauie, and that was cool too. But, you know, you want that Jay Electronica album. But he's amazing. I
was going to say before, we were talking about A$AP Rocky and like how you view the inspiration. Now, for me, when I look at YP, I am a UK rap fanatic. I see RV. But Mask is obviously the common denominator. But when I heard Selly, I thought of Big L. What was that like for you, for someone who grew up like around that era, hearing someone like Selly like interpret? And Lex is somewhat like
Lex
similarly inspired.
Like Selly, Lex, and Fez, CG Fez, all similar because they listen to that New York rap. Big L, Nas, and you can hear that when they rap, because, you know, like I said off air, like they're rappers, whereas YP obviously younger, and James and Spenny is kind of a bit newer. But just when I tell the story often too. When I first heard 1-4 and Selly came in, I was like, oh shit, this guy is actually, you know, he has the persona and the energy and stuff, of course, but when you kind of deepen it a bit more, it's like, oh man, like this guy's rhyme patterns are crazy. You know, he's rhyming all these things and multis and this and that, and it was very different for a young rapper, especially over you know, from South Pacific, from, you know, Islander MC, because, you know, usually it's not as deep as that. And to hear him and Lex like go bar for bar, they're a special breed.
They Lex on In the Beginning is most probably my favorite ever of Australian verses.
I think In the Beginning is probably, I mean, I have a lot of favorites of theirs, but I think In the Beginning was the perfect storm. Like, for them, like everyone shone, beat, the energy, the arrangement. Like, I think that
obviously the mask came off as well, that one.
You know, I think, but I think
the media.
Just like overall, that's probably a perfect, wonderful song.
Makes you want to run through a brick wall.
Oh yeah, just, you know, even when it starts with the organs, you know, big shout out to Gotcha, you know, on the beat, and and I Am Solo, he did a lot of editing on that too. But just when it kicks off with the organs, you're just like, oh shit, you just know that feeling. Hey, you get the goosebumps and the hair, and, you know, and your arms stand up. So that's a great song.
I was going to naturally just flow into your influence on 1-4 before, but we haven't done justice, I feel, to how he was before you became this mentor. Now, are you a part of Koolism? Half Koolism?
Yeah, half Koolism. Big shout out to Daniel's son, the other half.
Yeah, he's down in Melbourne, I saw.
Yeah, he's down in Melbourne. He DJs for Birds, another rapper. And also, you know, just highly intelligent guy that's always tinkering away with electronics and, you know, just making shit. You know, he was you know, I talk about it in the book. Like, he was the first person I've seen use a soldering iron. Do you know what soldering iron is?
Nah.
Like, it's probably not a thing you do now, like outside of electronics. But he would open things up, like, just say like a turntable or something. He would open it, and the electronics, and then he had this coil of metal and a soldering iron. It's like this handheld thing that. Like a welder, but for smaller, and he'd melt this wire that would connect to other wires in the machine to make it work. And he was like doing it
on the spot,
on the table, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" It was like a mad scientist, you know. He was, and you know, when I first met him, he wanted to make music for video games, you know. So he was that type of person. We were like very much opposite, but hip hop was the common thread.
And you ended up actually winning an ARIA. In 2003, 2004?
2004.
Yeah. How was that?
It was wild, you know, because it was the first of its kind, that award. First year for that award. It was the best urban release, which changed now to, you know, just hip-hop and R&B and soul. And
I noticed that when I was writing it down.
Yeah, which is good, because urban's a bit funny, that title.
Yeah, Simon Wheatley, his famous photography over in the UK of like early BBK, it's Don't Call Us Urban. Because, you know, it can be used, you know, it's pretty much like, anything black, or you know, black music. So it was the first year, and we won, and it was crazy, because, you know, the ARIAs at that time, you know, 12 and Techniques, another group, you know, in the early days, they did some great things. They won. Catalyst got nominated, but that was the first time for that category, and it was like a sense of like a change, you know, for the scene, because Hilltop Hoods that year or previously like kind of just blew up as well, like into the mainstream, and then us with that award, so it really did feel like things were changing for the scene, and it did, and you know, for us to think we'd never be there and then win. It was pretty wild. Yeah, that's crazy.
We weren't even going to go.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, because the ticket was like $300 a ticket or something. You know, and we were like, we're not going. We're not paying that to lose. And then we thought, well, you know what? It might be actually the last time we get nominated. So let's just go have fun.
Let's have a crack.
And luckily we did.
Yeah.
You know?
They received the award.
Yeah, you know, I would be at home watching it. Oh, Koolism couldn't be here. And I'll be like, fuck. Yeah.
And so a few years go by, and Koolism was 5 albums, 5 EPs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 5 albums, 5 EPs?
Yeah, this sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Pretty that's a pretty big collection.
It is, and I think, especially, because MP3s weren't a thing.
Yeah.
Then. So it's not like nowadays where you can, we can make a song right now and put it up and make a video after making the song and it's out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas the process of writing and recording and then having it mastered and then taking, sent away to do CDs or pressed on vinyl, it's a hell of a long process. And then to think that we did a lot of that, it is an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's just what made you appreciate music a lot more, and I feel, we can talk about MP3s, this and that, but, I think once people realized, we can get this music for free.
Yeah.
That was it was downhill.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons for that, but
pros for the consumer mostly.
Yeah, mostly for the consumer, which, we are too, even as an artist.
Yeah.
But for the artist, it was definitely not as great, and I kind of boycotted Spotify in my own quiet way, it was silent protest. When it started coming, I was like, nah, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
Just because I knew
the number, what they were splitting.
The small returns that artists were getting.
It's for 5 million streams, for 1 million streams, it's $5,000.
Yeah, it's $5-6 grand, which is
crazy.
It's wild. It's wild.
I think a lot of people don't consider the artist isn't getting that directly. Unless they're independent, is it not?
If they're doing it themselves, then they'll get it.
Yeah.
They'll get all the money. But, in saying that...
They're also paying for everything as well.
They're paying for everything.
Yeah.
And so, when you're with a label, whatever, there's smaller percentages, but then responsibilities get shared out too. So it's less on the artist. But just the thought of, the amount of money that goes into making music and shooting videos, and then getting kind of smaller returns. It's it's discouraging for a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And I understand why people kind of stop after a while, because what's the use?
Yeah.
But again, like I said at the top of the show, it's passion. If music makes you, then you'll do music regardless.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like not being able to do something that you love.
Yeah.
It makes you whole.
Yeah.
If I was to stop music because I had to earn money for my family, I'd be happy because I'm making money for family, but there'll be part of me that's broken, because music is what makes me
happy.
Yeah.
I was going to say also, the weird way Spotify kind of works, and it only works if people attend the shows and stuff like that, is it does provide an avenue of an exposure, which will work in turn if people are buying tickets to go see them live. That's the only silver lining in that story of pros for the
kind of. I think along those lines, it allows the consumer to check things out they normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on playlists or whatever.
Yeah.
You come across, what's this?
Yeah.
And that, and you'd hope they'd kind of dig deeper into your catalog, and then again, you'd hope that they liked you enough to go to a show.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of hope. You know what I mean? So, again, if it's hard, because obviously you want to get paid for everything that you do.
Yeah.
Because I know you love doing this podcast and I love making music, but you still want to get paid because it's still time and energy, and you want to pay for equipment or, pay for people that work for you. So it is hard. And sometimes you just got to weigh it up.
Yeah.
If you feel like, I can't, that's why I feel like a lot, there's a lot of mental stress with a lot of artists trying to do things, and it's not getting anywhere. I do get it. It's very tough.
Yeah, I saw your post the other day, and you were essentially along the lines of don't burn yourself out because of the the market now is based on relevancy type of thing. And I could see, like, I completely agree with where you're coming from, because I can see it happening within certain artists. Is like that stress of, like, are people going to know when I'm releasing?
You know, just the thought of always having to be on and always having to be out there.
Yeah,
you know, it can be very stressful, because, you know, some artists as you would know, some artists are different. Like, some artists just like making music. That's it, and that's all. If that's all you want to do, that's fair enough. Yeah, but then you got to also have a certain expectation that comes with that. Yeah. So, okay, so if you're not doing social media, having any kind of social media presence, then you should also understand that your music is probably not going to be as exposed as it could be. Yeah, and
monetary revenue is going to be harder.
Yeah. And even as people, you know, like your generation native to a lot of this social media, you know, it's just hand in hand, because that's just life. Yeah. Whereas some older artists had to learn how to adapt, and some didn't. Yeah. You know, and some couldn't, you know, and some didn't give a shit. But yeah, it's a tough road to navigate. And that's what the post was kind of just checking in, you know, and just making sure, like, you need to look after yourself first, and the best way to it is loving yourself and being surrounded by people that love you regardless, you know, because we can go off and do this and that, but I mean, you probably have, like, you know, a few people in the circle that, you know, they can always check in and you know, feel like you're looked after.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So after all that, we go through Koolism. We've just talked about artistry and whatnot. And you go into being Triple J host, which recently ended after 14 years.
14 glorious years. Well, I was actually still doing Koolism when I started at Triple J.
Yeah, right.
And when that opportunity came up, I was a bit iffy about it, because I didn't want to take the job and then they stopped playing Koolism. Yeah. You know, but for, you know, conflict of interest. Yeah. But they assured me, like, that's not the case, and it wasn't the case. So they still played our music, and I still was able to host. But yeah, shout out to Maya, who was the host before me. And it was a difficult decision to make, you know, because besides the conflict of interest, he still wanted to be known as an artist. Yeah. Not just, he's just a radio host now. Yeah. And, you know, it kind of dilutes the artistry of you know, being an artist. But it was too good of an opportunity to not take. Yeah. And, you know, obviously I'm thankful I did take it, and it gave me a platform to really empower a lot of voices that weren't empowered before. Yeah. And to be able to get behind movements and, you know, artists and put them on a national platform, and very beautiful time. And shout out to Triple J, because they gave me that green light to do that. Yeah. You know, they didn't say, okay, you come in here, but you have to play this, that, and that. And I told them, I said, so do I have to play what you're saying? They're like, no, you play whatever you want. And I was like, yeah, where do I sign? Yeah, you know? Yeah. Because that you know, that would be the last thing you'd want to do. Yeah. You know, do a great show like that, but it's like, but you can only play these artists. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. I actually owe you credit. You played a Koji Radical song this year off his latest album, maybe. Yeah. And you got me hooked.
Oh, he's awesome.
Because what you did, which anyone who follows you will know as well, what you did well was you tagged the artist when you were playing at the time. So I'd sit there sometimes and then like slowly go through your story when I was like ready to go to bed and be like, all right, like this artist tomorrow or whatever. And then I always knew Koji was around, but never got into him. And then, I got into him, and I was just sitting in Amsterdam listening to him, and I thought
a place to listen to him.
Yeah, man. I was sitting at a cafe by myself in the morning, obviously, you know, indulging, and I was like, wow, how
when in Rome.
Yeah, when in Rome, of course. And I was sitting there, and I was like, you came up because it was like, oh wow, like I was just thinking, how did I even get into him? You know, because I'm into UK rap, but he's a bit more to the left.
Yeah, a bit more kind of, I guess,
stands with him, but just to the side.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder how I got into him. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, it's off Hauie's run on the night show. But yeah, you introduced a lot of artists to a lot of people. I think a lot more than you'd maybe recognize.
Yeah, I think it's stories like that remind me.
Yeah.
Because again, it's that passion. Is like, I just love this music, and I feel like you will love this too. So I want to play it and tag and support, and if it has that effect like it has on you, you know, like I love that, you know, and I do hear a lot of stories like that. I never heard this or that, and in recent years I've realized the power of the show in the prison system.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's a nationally broadcasted show, so it would go everywhere, and a lot of the prisoners would tune in.
Yeah.
And I got a few handwritten letters here and there, back earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just
stock standard.
Yeah, well, not stock standard, just kind of an anomaly. It was just like, oh, okay. But then, I guess as the scene changed and street hip hop was becoming the main kind of like the bigger part of the scene, then I would start getting like DMs from people inside or people that just come out, and I made them like, I was listening to your show. That's what Hef said the first time because I came across his music and I was like, oh wow, this is mad.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2017, something like that.
Yeah,
and
I remember him in the phone box back then.
Yeah. Like
guilty,
them boys was the one I was like, oh, this is mad, because it was kind of it was grime. Yeah. And like Fraction, all that were doing grime.
Shout out Alex Jones too.
Alex Jones, like that whole crew were doing it like early. But that was the first time I saw an Islander do it, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's, he's tapped into that sound. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just DM'd him and said, hey man, like I see what you're doing, like blah blah blah. This is mad. Yeah. And he wrote back like, oh man, I used to listen to your show, and when I was inside, I was like, what? And I would meet a lot of people like that. And then people sending their shout outs, and so and I just came to understand that for a lot of the inmates, it was the only connection I had from the outside.
Would you say, now this is niche, but would you say that's why you're in the Welcome to Prison video? Did that have something to do with it?
Nah.
Or that I was just being around the boys?
I was just there during the shoot, and they had some parts for some extras, and I think it felt like, because the boys said, oh, come this part, and it felt like, because I had stopped working closely with them by that point. Yeah. But Ricky said, oh, we're shooting at Parramatta Jail, just come through, hang out, and I did, and it kind of felt like it was there, almost like a thank you, to be in that video.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, like a kind of just like a, thank you, let's go step in there, and I was a bit like, oh, but I thought, oh, that's nice, let's do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy about the inmates writing to you about your show. That would be an awesome feeling.
It is, it's because I was on another podcast, and it can be iffy because you don't know why they're in there. Yeah. But for me, it was always about, well, someone's in there, paying their dues to society, like for whatever they've done, and at the end of the day, they're still a loved one. Yeah. People outside, so that's how I kind of came to look at it, because people say, "Oh, can you send a shout out to Davo?" And I'm like, yeah, but what did Davo do? Did he run a red light and like hit some old lady? Like, I don't want to shout out this guy, but you find out a way to do it, because you kind of want to honor the person who asked for the shout out too, because obviously they missed them, and you want to pay that respect in some way. So but it's like just people sending DMs or people hitting me up to send a shout out, especially like someone, like JC or someone like will do a song, and you say, oh, when you play it, can you send so and so a shout out? Yeah. And you do. Yeah. Wow.
What would say out of the artists that have come through and that you've played on the show, what was when you look back on it, like who came, like it's hard to word what I'm trying to say, but the artists that have come through, was like early Manu and early JC, were they being aired on the show?
Yeah, like Mono Crooks was because I knew B Wise before Mono Crooks. Like legend. B Wise introduced me to that whole Dream Big studio, and because B Wise was in one of my videos. He said, "Oh, let's go back to the studio." Went back to the studio, and there I met like Ziggy. Already knew Miracle, but there's I Am Solo, Dopamine, IE, like just this real raw talent and this energy, and I'd never seen that in Australia. Like obviously these guys were listening to things like Travis Scott and like that kind of side of things, and they introduced me to Spacely, and I just was like, wow, this is a great energy. The music they're making is different, it's fresh, and I wanted to back it from the start, and I did, and that's what the show has enabled me to do. Is they had their own little community, but outside of that, no one really knew. Yeah. But for me, I didn't care if you were known or not. Yeah. If I felt like it was something that people needed to hear, I would play it. Yeah. And no matter if they recorded it in their bedroom or a $1 million studio. Like, the essence of the track is what I gravitated towards, and if it was there, then I would spin it. Yeah, I found out about Manu pretty late. I actually found out about Manu in 2019. Oh yeah. One of my friends, his name's Dom. Shout out Dom. I think shout out Dom. Yeah, he'll love that. D. Yeah, he's not on social media or anything. Just has Facebook. But we'd go to the gym together, and he worked 2 jobs, so we'd go late at night. And then one night we're just sitting at the gym, and he goes, "Oh, there's this guy," and he's like, "I swear he's American." But he's like, his name's Manu Crooks. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll check him out. And then we get in the car, and Dom goes on his Spotify page. And we were obsessed with, like, I can't remember, Real Ones. Was that the song? No. Day Ones? Yeah. Day Ones. Yeah, that's a tune, bro. There was that whole EP, Mood Forever. Like, yeah. Man. And there was a few other ones. And we were sitting there, and we're like, holy shit. And then, it came up, like, it's a boy from Sydney. Yeah. And then... and he was, at that point, the face of change. You know? Yeah. Like, and B Wise too. Yeah, and B Wise, because B Wise is the big bro for all of those guys. Yeah, who broke in a lot of barriers for them. But Mono Crooks at that stage was that young kid. Yeah, who like, oh shit, and everyone loved it because he did kind of, it was a bit American, but it was a bit Western Sydney. It was a bit, you could feel like he fit in a lot of places. Yeah, it wasn't so, especially the sound of hip hop in Australia at that time as well it was still very influenced by kind of like the boom bap sound. Yeah, whereas they came through with the trap drums and the sliding 808s and it was just a whole different movement, and I knew I had to be on that. Yeah, and big shout out to Remy as well, like a young black kid from Melbourne, but he was doing the more soulful sound that was like Jay Dilla and Slum Village, and he was another young face that was changing things. And we need, I felt I just needed to again, like, empower that, because for a long time it did feel like hip hop in Australia was quite stagnant. Oh, very. Yeah, very. And there was a disconnect between my generation and younger generation, and I was very fortunate that I, like I said, my era is 80s and 90s, but I still love everything that comes out. Not everything, but I love a lot of stuff that comes out now, and that's why I've been able to do the show for 14 years, because I've been able to connect with a lot of things, and some things I don't connect, but I still understand like why people like it. Like even with like Migos, like, rest in peace, Takeoff. When I first heard it, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. Like, but then once you realize that it's not always about lyricism, it can be about energy and can be about just style, then you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Like this is, and when you hear it in a club too. Yeah. When you hear it loud and out of big speakers at a jam or whatever, you're like, I get it. Like that's why these kids love it because it's just that energy.
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't like them at all. And then I was at a party and Ric Flair Drip was playing.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, like that's what I
yeah. Once you have a bit of drink or your
Yeah.
drugs in your system, whatever, it's just
it's
the perfect vibe for it.
I think they were flow. I think that's what it was. I think they caught me when they'd actually go on freestyles. The Colours show.
Yeah.
When they were on there, like the actual flow is impeccable.
Yeah.
Like it is crazy. It sounds like they're not breathing. Like they're just going, and then more air's coming into their lungs.
Ad libs in the game.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah. There's a few things like that. But back to Manu. I always kind of thought it as Manu. I'm purely a spectator. Everyone that watches this show consistently would know that. But from what I saw, Manu was the first to take it to the hoop. Is like a good way to describe it. I thought out of Sydney, like really took it. And I remember he was booked on an American festival, maybe, or he got booked on Listen Out Late.
Oh yeah,
as a big name.
Yeah, he. He was when Rolling Loud came.
Yeah, that's
Australia.
Yeah.
And that was early days, and like that was when Kid Laroi was part of their camp too. Young teenager was hanging around them, and there's this one picture at Rolling Loud. Incredible picture, like it's face. It was the face of change of what was happening in Australia at the time. Like those names I mentioned before, and obviously Kid Laroi is in there as well. I think, and Manu Crooks was that person to be able to, like his music too was like the first time I heard local hip hop being played at clubs.
Yeah,
because it had that sonic sound, and and
his voice too.
The voice,
cool,
and coming out of cars, and whereas it was very hard to play local hip hop in clubs or venues next to a Travis Scott or even like something produced by the Neptunes or something, because sonically it was different.
Yeah.
But yeah, Manu Crooks was that connection. Yeah.
That I look back on it sometimes. It's crazy. I remember like looking at photos on social media and Leroy was in them. You're going like, who's this little white kid? Like, what's he doing? And then what we look at now is just our biggest export, really, in terms of music. Like, crazy what he's done. And when he did My City, I loved it.
Wow, bro, that's energy, eh? That too is like, it just really captures a time and a sound.
Yeah.
Like, and it feels like it was just a very small time too, but they just caught it.
Yeah.
Like lightning in a bottle, as they say.
Yeah. Well, we've gone over the artists from Sydney and whatnot. I literally wrote down Kid Laroi, 1-4, Manu Crooks. I think everyone that knows you through music would know that you had a pretty incremental part of 1-4's rise. But I wanted to ask you, like, who are actually your favorite artists? And I was going to break it up into 3 categories.
Yeah.
I was going to go like late 80s into the 90s, because I'd assume there'd be less artists. Hey, out of those, like overall the amount of artists, because it was less accessible.
Yeah and no, probably yeah. I would say yeah.
And then 2000s, and then we'll go. You can mention early 2010s and like on recently. So I wanted to get 3 from 3 different groups.
Right,
so
question.
Essentially, we've got 9 coming up.
Yeah. So 80s, 90s, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
De La Soul, and I would say maybe something like. No, I say like a Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
Because I think Public Enemy was, A Nation of Millions, takes a Nation of Millions to hold us back. They made that album. It's probably my favorite hip hop album. But in terms of me being an artist and influence, it's like De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest. So yeah, those 3 from, would you say 2000s or 2010s?
2000s and then 2010 onwards.
2000s. It was interesting because the 2000s I really started listening. It's funny because a lot of my peers found it weird. I started listening to a lot of, because I was going out clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like R&B clubs.
Yeah.
And even like raves. So I was listening to a lot of different stuff that peers were listening to.
Yeah. And
so when, like rappers would be in the car and I'd be playing stuff like Ludacris.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, what are you listening to this? Because this is when like Southern rap too started really
hitting it.
Yeah, you know, like Hot Boys and all that kind of stuff were coming out. So yeah, like Ludacris, I would say like those two, that the Jay-Z 2000 era was awesome, even though, you know, it's kind of 90s.
You lumping Nas in there?
Well, Nas is the GOAT. And I should have said him in the 90s, but I was kind of thinking late 80s, early 90s. But he was kind of 94. So I'll put Nas there in that 4.
Yeah.
Who else? I gotta think of someone. Probably someone like Cameron.
Yeah?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
that's an outside shout.
Yeah. Again, you know, I was clubbing, and so I was hearing a lot of that stuff. And you know, like we were talking about Migos and everything, you understood why people were making this kind of music. If you weren't clubbing and you heard it, you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Once you're out in there and the Sonics and the drinks are flowing, the girls are out and about, like they're the jams.
Yeah.
You know? And now, you say?
Well, 2010 onwards.
Oh.
You can break that in half if you want. Like
2010 onwards, man, like Dave is one.
The GOAT. The best.
Like, who else? Man, that's a Kendrick.
You going with any of New York, like ASAP or Joey?
That's funny because I appreciated both, but because I grew up, you know, I tell the story a lot. Because I grew up in the 90s, I didn't really care about Joey Badass that much because he just sounded like stuff I was listening to in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I understood why he stood out, because at that time there was a lot of trap and whatever, and I understood why young ones were like, it was fresh to them. But to me, I was like, I was listening to, you know, Black Moon and all these, you know, Wu-Tang and everything like back then. So it didn't, you know, it didn't mean a lot to me. I later started liking his stuff, and with ASAP and that, I knew they were good, but it just wasn't for me at that time. Yeah,
that's fair.
But you know, they are great. So did I say anything for 2010?
No,
I said Kendrick, Dave. Who else can I say? Let's just say Sampa the Great. You know, she is an amazing artist. You know, and I think we'll always say she's an Australian, but you know, I think a lot of her formative years were here, but she's international. You know, like was born in, I think, Zambia, and then went to States and Canada. Came here for a few years, and then I think went to States again and went back home. But you know, I think we'll always claim her as one
TK
of us.
is similar, isn't she? She was born.
Well, she was. Yeah, I think.
I don't think it was Zambia though.
No. She did come from a nation in Africa. She came to Adelaide at a very young age.
Yeah. It was a different city. I remember that reading up about her.
Yeah, and it was strange too. Like she was coming out of Adelaide. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome too. Just to see her ascension as well.
She has crazy numbers,
bro. You know, she was doing well here, and then I think when she started connecting with people in the States, just because of her sound and even her look, you know, because her look is, she could be from anywhere. Yeah, you know what I mean. And she just makes great music and has great energy about her. Yeah,
I love both of them. Yeah, Sampha, I initially thought her and the English guy were the same. I didn't know. Like,
Sampha?
Yeah. So I thought, for when someone told me when I was like 19, 20, like Sampha, the Aussie girl, was like, they go Sampha, and I go, oh, like she was on a Drake track, no? Like, too much. Like, that's one of my favorite songs growing up. Like, no. Like, Sampha the Great, and then there's Sampha. And then, because when More Life came out, there was 4422. Yeah. And I was like, oh, an Aussie's on it. And then somebody corrected me, like, dude, no. Like,
what are you on?
Yeah, you're way off the you're way off the shout. You mentioned Dave before, and I did my research. You and Dave follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah, strange. Like, big up Dave, man, because I was actually
shout out Santan.
I was actually meant to interview him on the Triple J Hip-Hop show.
Yeah.
And I was, it happens a fair bit, especially with rappers and rappers from overseas. Like, you set up and then their publicist calls or whatever. Like, oh, no, you can't make it. And that happened with Dave. It's like, oh, and I think that happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
We tried to hook it up and just didn't work out. And I was like, I was bummed because, just a great artist. And then he DM'd me and was like, hey man, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I couldn't interview. I was in the studio and I was just like, for an artist of his caliber
to go out of his way.
Yeah, and just to kind of at least, I appreciate that shit. I mean, you don't even have to be a big artist. It could be just an artist that's beginning.
Yeah.
But if you have that kind of what is it? That kind of
humility.
Yeah, humility to be like, hey, sorry, I missed that, or like I did something wrong, or I said something wrong, And so for him to say it, I was like taken aback, and he followed me, and but that's that's as deep as the interactions.
Yeah, right. I was thinking.
He follows me on Twitter too. I often laugh like if he's kind of scrolling and then. Past my thing and like, who's this guy? Oh yeah,
the Aussie,
So why am I following this? Oh, okay, yeah, it's that guy.
Crazy you mentioned that. I've told the story so many times. I'll try and shorten it. So September 2017, I messaged him about his show because I wasn't 18 by 3 days. So it was on January 3rd and I turned 18 on January 6th, 2018, and it was at Oxford Art. And he replies, and like this is 3 or 4 months to go.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he replies like, "Hey man, you're on my guest list. Contact Jack."
Yeah.
So I contacted Jack. Shout out Neighborhood Records, actually doing really. Meeks is on there. I didn't even realize either.
Nuts.
Crazy. Like Meeks is He's won 4 bar the other day. It was awesome.
Yeah, but big shout out to Meeks.
Yeah, I reckon him and Potter Paper and Clavish will be the best in the UK.
Yeah, Potter Paper.
That's
one of Fez's favorites too.
Oh yeah, I've been in the car with Fez listening to him. Yeah, and sorry, we go back. So the message Jack's like, yeah, you're on the guest list, sweet, all done.
Are you thinking like, is this gonna happen?
I was just excited they replied. Really, like I was just thinking like, yeah, surely I'm on Dave's guest list. Like, there's no way I don't get in. I know I'm not 18. Yeah. There's no way I don't get in. And my mate was on it too, John, and he had nothing to do with it. He got the luckiest ticket of all time. And so I get to the door, and 4 or 5 of my mates came with me, and they were just going to the show.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, you're on the guest list. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, can I come in? They're like, no, you're not 18. And I was like, fuck, this whole thing's been debunked. Like, I thought it was a genius. And then, after like a few minutes, like back and forth, like, look, man, you're not coming in. It's like, whatever. And I just thought, fuck, like, how's this happen? Surely like 3 days off, Oxford Art Factory.
And he came in from the mountains?
Yeah. Hour and a half or hour and 45 train.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, fuck, man. I wasn't 18 either, so I couldn't go out after and just drink. So me and my mate John was just like, fuck, what do we do? So I just messaged Dave on a whim. I was like, hey, man, like, I didn't get in. I'm going to wait for a photo, though, so I'll come back and meet you outside, like, hours after your show, if that's all right. And he was like, yeah, that's sweet, man. I'm so sorry it didn't work. Australia's laws are shit. And truth be told, they can be a bit too strict. And anyway, he double messages me. And he goes, hey, man, I'm coming back down. You're a real fan. Like, I really appreciate you. And then we're waiting outside. There's like that park?
Yeah.
Halfway down Oxford Street on the left. We're waiting outside there, and there's a florist there. And we're sitting on the florist steps. And, this guy in Dave hoodie comes up, and it's Dave. And... Nuts. And he comes up and just starts talking to me. 169 was there. I remember that.
Yeah.
And maybe you met them, but there's the twins. There's the twins, and then they're Ghanaian or Nigerian boys. I know that. And then he's got another friend that's Northern African, so he's Tunisian or Moroccan.
Yeah.
And they're in every video. Yeah. They're in every single video. And they were all there. They were lovely. His whole crew were just nice as can be. Had a full conversation with them. And Dave was very like, how are you? Like, what are you doing? What do you do for work? How did you find out about me?
Nuts.
And I was like talking to him about Black Box Cypher and stuff like that. And Street Stars, which was special. I remember I asked him, like, what happened to the white guy in the background of Street Stars? He just started laughing.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Because there was this white kid in the background of Street Stars. And then we never saw of him again. And I always wondered, like, I wonder what that guy thinks. You know what I mean? Like,
and what did he say?
Yeah, he just started laughing. Like, they just all thought it was funny. Like, an Aussie kid had that question to ask. And then, met him and got a photo with him. And then, he's just loveliest bloke, like made my night. And then 3 days later, a friend of mine, his best mate, his mum worked up in Ticketek. And they were at like one of the festivals in Byron. So this is like in early January.
Yeah.
And he meets him, and he's from around the corner from me. He's from Wimberley as well. And he mentions like my interaction with him. He's like, I remember Harry. Like, he was cool. And that was just like, I've never experienced anything like that before. And he was always my favorite. Like, Thiago Silva by then was not as a classic as what it is now because of the Alex at Glastonbury thing that hadn't happened yet. But back then, that was a huge tune. And Panic Attack was a massive tune for me. Like, helped me get through a lot of like just challenges. You know what I mean? When you're like stressing and stuff like that. And I remember when I saw Dave following you, I was like, that's the coolest thing in the world. He's my favorite, man.
Yeah.
He's
How did my name come up before? You said like,
I remember just going into your profile. It says followed by Santan Dave straight away.
But like when you did that because he mentioned my name. Is that what he said at the start? Like, you knew of me because he said.
No, I knew of you because I'd I can't wait. What was it? Maybe he'd mentioned you, or maybe he was following you at the time when I got the photo. January 3rd, 2018. Was that when he was here?
Yeah, is that when like 1-4 was meant to do the shows as well?
No, that would have been after.
No, that would have been. Oh yeah, no, that would have been. Yeah.
What year did you meet him? 2019.
Yeah, when he came and 1-4 were meant to do the.
Yeah, no, so 2018. No, so maybe it was after, and I found your profile through 1-4. Yeah, that sounds better. And then I remember Dave following you, and I was taken back by that. I was like, wow, like, this is crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's funny because that still bugs me out now. Like, I mean, like I said before, like, we don't have any kind of interaction, but just when I kind of looking, and then I like Twitter too, and then see him tweet something, and then you know how it says like follows.
Yeah,
it's like, oh wow, Dave. You know?
Yeah.
Hey Dave, what you doing, man? Shout out to Dave.
Shout out to
One
Dave.
of the best.
Yeah, well, if not the best. Only Skepta and J Huss and Potter Paper in that conversation for me over there, and Wretch. Yeah. But Wretch is, it's a weird expression I use, but he's with him, but he's just to the left. Yeah. Like, if there's a race, those four are in the middle. Well, he's Potter like Paper a little behind, and Wretch is in his own lane, like in his own lane.
Yeah,
he's
I appreciate that.
I think he's a rapper's rapper. Like, anyone that enjoys rap will go, yeah, I vouch for Wretch. And Avellino on that point as well.
Yeah.
But commercially wise, I don't think he gets the recognition. Crazily enough, I think he actually has the biggest song out of all of them, which is 6 words.
Oh, yeah.
I think
that was a big, mainstream hit, that one.
Yeah, I think that's actually maybe Skep would have something bigger, but that's...
Yeah, I don't know.
Shutdown might be bigger.
Yeah, I think Shutdown...
But that's
probably on par, but I mean that would definitely be Skepta's biggest tune. But yes, I think 6 words. Yeah, that's a great song.
Mentioning Wretch, I did deep dive into your Instagram. The following names I found, and there's a lot more, but Maverick Sabre, Notes, Big Nasty, shout out Big Nasty, Octavian,
top bloke,
one of the greatest of all time, Mac Miller.
Yeah,
for my generation at least, massive inspiration for all of us. Nas and Damian Marley.
Yeah.
How have that's an elite list, and there's more like out there. Yeah. Those are just ones I found like today. How do those all come about? Is that through Triple J sending you to festivals or?
Yes, some of them are like doing interviews for the Triple J Hiphop show.
Yeah.
Some of them were. I just went on a trip to London with Patrina. Shout out to Patrina. Like, we went for Sony.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of festivals going on, and the Wretch photo was at Reading Festival.
Crazy.
And yeah, just to see that festival was mad. 'Cause I saw like Getz performed. Who else?
What's your favorite
Lady
Getz
Alicia,
tune?
Favorite Getz? Oh, bro, I don't know. He's another one that's in that conversation, I feel. Because he's...
With Wretch, yeah.
Yeah, he's just... I mean, even, like, from his early kind of street rap and then grime to now, like, his evolution is quite incredible,
He's, is it Black Rose? Yeah, that's
off the. I think it was off the conflict of interest.
Yeah, that was
like the videos.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah. Like I saw him perform, and Wretch performed as well. But yeah, so yeah, that was a trip to London. That's where I met Notes and Octavian. And
Notes would have been popping off at the time of Addison Lee.
Yeah, he was huge at the time. It's kind of strange how he just not disappeared, but man, he was so.
A few of them did the same. Youngin.
Yeah, Youngin. Yeah, I think it was that time of the whole kind of Afro swing kind of sound, and then because I was actually meant to meet Heady One that day too.
Yeah,
and he was just. I mean, he had been doing mixtapes, but he was just starting to kind of break through.
Yeah. Had No Better come out by then?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I went to the GRM Daily Awards that year, and that awards like gigs played. Apparently, Heady One was meant to play too, but he was still. I think he was banned from that area.
Yeah.
Of London, so he didn't play. But yeah, that was just going to that award show and seeing all these artists like DWE like performed, like Notes performed.
Yeah. DWE's cool. Such a cool guy.
He's a master.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and at that Reading Festival, Jay Huss played, so I got to see him perform.
He's weird, eh?
Yeah, he's
social media wise, just disappears for months at a time. Yeah. I find it hilarious. I remember once he came back and just said like how much he wants to wife up Rihanna, and then just did.
Yeah,
like he posted one story like saying Rihanna, like I want to wife up Rihanna, and then he just left Instagram for months. Yeah. He's special.
Like, I was reading some the other day, like someone was comparing, like someone was saying, oh, who's the king, like Stormzy or Jay Huss, and someone said like. That Big Conspiracy album, there was not one video.
True.
But it was like one of the biggest albums, whereas Stormzy has these big videos. Yeah, and he's great in his own right.
Yeah,
but for someone like like Jay Huss is just that people's champion. Yeah. Like everyone just loves everything he does, and I guess his authenticity and of course his artistry. He's a
Well, when you mentioned Notes before, I was about to say Huss came through. Around that time, Den Boy Pagan, and then Samantha with Dave kind of like put him into people's mouths, and then Did You See came, and that was similar to that Addison Lee type of era. And then when that Big Conspiracy came, I still bump it most days. Reckless is my favorite, where he like talks about basically like what happened in Troy. Yeah. It's like invade and then spray from the center. If you want to conquer people, then create a division. All those type of like.
I think it was only. Oh no, he had a few. Like Burna Boy was on there. Right?
Burna Boy and LMA, I think, were the features.
Oh, Coffee
and his sister.
ICTGM.
Well. Yeah, that's his sister, I believe.
And that was before Burna Boy was. I mean, he still had a name, but
big in music,
like
but
Boy,
before big commercial. Yeah. Yeah, that was special. Yeah, Huss was a special artist. I just wonder what he gets up to. I always just think...
He seems like the kind of guy that just in his house 24/7.
Yeah.
Just watches like conspiracy videos on YouTube and makes music when he wants to.
Yeah. What do you think of his Daily Duppy? You think it's one of the best?
I don't know. Oh, like one of the best Daily Duppies?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
because he just got out too. I think.
Yeah, he'd just gotten out.
Yeah,
for something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, because I think when I saw him, that was just before he went in.
Yeah. It's pretty special. How you mentioned Heady One and RV. When they released Ain't It Different came out.
Yeah,
with 1-4 on it. I sat there, and I don't know how many people picked up on it, but they have such a similar story. Like
Heady One and 1-4,
Heady One and RV and 1-4's. I wouldn't say all of OFB because all of OFB is a completely different ball game. But the actual story there of like the similarity. So Heady One put on a pedestal. A lot of people wouldn't know it now because of how popular he was, but he was banned from most of London, and he was banned from doing shows.
I mean, it's hard to believe, like where he is now. Like he's like the face of UK, like British music, alongside the Skeptors and the Stormzys. But like when he started, he was like proper
Public Enemy number one. Yeah,
and there have been art, like Diggy D's like one of them as well. That he was banned a lot of places, and his music was taken down off YouTube, and the first, I think, artist where he had to change, like he couldn't perform under his name. But then you had other artists too, like Solar Crew, who did like UK garage like early, and they were banned as well. So but yeah, like Heady One, it was like demon time, like all the time.
And then RV with The Mask. Like, funnily enough, RV liked my post last week. Out of nowhere,
funny guy.
Yeah, he's funny. He follows Bo because he G'd up, sent him stuff back in the day.
Photos.
Yeah, and I like Bo was a collaborator on my post and he liked it. I just thought it was crazy, but yeah, a lot of people would know RV back in the day was Masked. Yeah, kind of the first, really.
Yeah.
There might have been more in UK drill, but I can't remember.
But he was like
attention around it, as much as his,
and he was constantly wearing it.
Yeah,
when at a time where it wasn't, wasn't the aesthetic.
It wasn't the aesthetic. And when that song came out, like Ain't It Different, I was like, well, it's a bit of a full circle moment. Whether like it's on purpose that they've created a song together, or like whether it's just commercial and it's just business. I just thought, wow, that's like really cool that such similar stories have linked up on a track and got to make it happen.
And it's like the saying goes, like real recognize real.
Yeah,
I think it's just out of mutual respect, and at that time they were both top of the game.
Yeah,
and making that kind of collaboration just made sense.
Yeah,
because trying to make inroads in the Australian market as well.
Yeah,
you got at that time you got to tap in with like the top of the top. But yeah, even for myself that work closely with them, and then just to hear that, it's like it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
and even when I first heard the song they did with Dutchavelli, because at that time Dutchavelli, when Dutchavelli came out, he was like the artist.
Yeah, I didn't realize when he came. I had no idea who his sister was.
Oh yeah, Stefflon Don.
Yeah, so I couldn't understand how this guy, like, despite how good Only If You Knew was, I was like, I don't know how I've heard similar shit. How the fuck is this blowing up like this? And then I think like 2 weeks later, like someone mentioned it in their blog, and it was like this Stefflon Don's little brother. I was like, oh, that's where the push has come from. But yeah, he wrote that out. Like I don't know what he's up to now. I unfollowed him after a series of
I was like a bit of like, oh wow.
Yeah, no matter what the explanation was, I was like, I'm all good. But leading up to before all that, he was really good at how he handled business, and Better, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Better came. Yeah, and that was that was sick.
Yeah, because I remember, even because I wasn't working with 1-4 like that anymore, and Ricky would tell me bits and bits. Oh yeah, like Dutch really reached out, and I was like, holy shit, And then they'd do the demo, and I'd hear it, and I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy, and even the Heady One remix, and I think when I was working with the boys closely, I said, I gave him a list of like, artists that I want him to work with. I think Heady One was one of them. I think Unknown T was one. Oh, because he's like one of them. Yeah. Listen. He's like one of my favorites. Who was the LD from 6-7.
Yeah.
I was like, man, like if you do a track with any of these guys, and I'll die happily, man.
Yeah, LD. For my first drill song.
Waps. Was it? No.
Nah, Let's Lurk. Because Giggs was on it.
Giggs, yeah.
Yeah, because Giggs was like, obviously Giggs had hopped on a JME feature back then. It's not Talking the Hardest. What was it? Man Don't Care.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was just following Giggs, and now he's one of my favorites. The Essence by Giggs.
He's another guy that's in that conversation of, coming from that road rap, and then evolving into who he is now.
Yeah, reflective individual.
And to recently getting his, Jay-Z shout out on the songs, like, yeah, wow. And again, it just proves if you stay true to yourself, no matter what the wave is, like, you'll get there somehow.
Yeah, big bad man Giggs, and then
Hollow Man.
Yeah, Hollow Man. And then so it was Giggs on Let's Lurk, and then I remember
Actually, I think it was LD that had the mask. It was for
me.
LD. I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, because it wasn't a balaclava. It was like that Phantom of the Opera kind of mask.
Yeah.
That was like scary. Like, oh shit, this is something.
He still hasn't taken it off, hey?
No, he still wears it now.
Yeah.
But I think there has been a few photos and stuff without it. You know.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, 6'7". Of course, this is a massive throwback. Section Boys came.
Bro, yeah.
Then changed
like
to
the
Smoke
Lock
Boys.
Off, like, yeah.
For
me, like that Lock Off song, Section Boys, was when I saw that, I was like, oh man, this is something else. You know, I felt there's a real shift there because obviously they're coming off the back of people like Gigs, but it was like a new version.
It's like calm aggression.
Yeah, and it was just wavy, and the video was dope, and you know, and it came just before the drill explosion.
And then I remember, I can't forget it. I was on YouTube, and this weird ass YouTube channel, still to this day, is on this channel, and it goes Kennington Where It Started.
Oh, yeah.
And then that for me was
Harlem Spartans.
Harlem Spartans, best drill artist of all time, Miz or Mac. Happy to debate it with anyone who walks in the room. Like, he's just unmatched. He's another one whose personal development came out with Return of the Mac.
Yeah.
I thought that's one of the best UK songs ever released.
Yeah.
And like Lowski's similar.
I think, I mean, that's a crazy collective, you know.
Blanco as well.
Blanco, you know, and I think Blanco might have been. I think he might have been the first from the UK to reach out to the boys.
Wow.
Because I think, you know, because we had a group chat at the time, and they sent a screenshot of Blanco like sending a DM.
Yeah,
you know?
wow.
And they were always meant to be on a track, but just never.
He went very South American sound, actually.
I loved that.
Yeah, I love his sound.
That was a City of God
mixtape.
So good. You know, that's how you reinvent yourself. Because even him, you know, coming out of jail and having a lot of legal pressures, and then just for him to be like switching it up musically, that was before all this kind of new drill, kind of South American Bali funk style came out, and he was doing that already.
Yeah,
he's dope.
Yeah, they did it. They did it before. Yeah, that was just the first. When you look back at it, they just did it. I always thought like YP's 21 Watt. When I first heard it, that hook, so to speak, straight away I thought of Kennington Where It Started. Yeah. Like a question. Yeah. That was the first. Like that. As soon as I heard it, I was like, "That's Kennington Where It Started." And and Lex kind of sounded like. When I heard Lex, he kind of sounded like Harlem Spartans in a way. And there was another artist that I can't remember off the top of my dome that I thought at the same time was similar. Maybe it was C-Biz. No, C-Biz is the Liverpool guy, isn't he? He's a bit like a...
Or are you thinking... Yeah, I know who C-Biz is, yeah.
Maybe it's another one. But yeah, there was a few times where I like recognised Harlem Spartans as like an actual influence towards music where I hadn't recognised that before. And yeah, Blanco reinventing himself. Lowski's now like a commercials. Like, success. And then
what's in that song was the first boy? Oh, did you say
the Obsessed song? We're talking about Digger?
No, I forgot what song it was, but it was funny. He was kind of saying first boy off the block on TikTok or something that. You know, it's like, I don't know if that's, you know, any kind of claim to fame, but yeah, I mean, he's always cool too.
Yeah.
Lowski, you know, what's that? I think, when he started doing all that stuff is when I met the boys.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a hot minute.
Yeah, you know, and because I wasn't on drill like they were. Yeah. Like I had seen like some 6-7 stuff, Lowski, like, but getting to know them, they put me onto a lot of stuff that they were listening to. Yeah. At the time, like Harlem Spartans and who was the other stuff they're listening to? B-side, I think one was one of them. But yeah, just the kind of bit more underground.
Yeah.
I mean,
8-6 maybe or R6?
Nah.
Because they collab with 6-7 a lot.
But yeah, it was just kind of interesting to see, just for them to introduce me to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. What was it like hearing drill when you first got to it from an old hip hop head?
I liked it because I've always been a fan of British music, so like hip hop that was coming out of the UK, and then I listen to a lot of drum and bass and kind of UK garage and two step grime. I loved grime, and then so from grime to going into drill wasn't that.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't much of a. Wasn't that far removed, even though it was lyrically and sonically, but it was still that kind of energy, street energy. So, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
And because I was listening to a lot of reggae and dancehall too, and like a lot of music coming out of Britain, it's heavily influenced.
Yeah.
By the Caribbean. So, yeah, loved it.
Yeah. The quick thing on UK rap, top 5 for you.
Oosh.
I love asking people who are involved in music who their top 5s are.
There's a group called London Posse.
Yeah.
Who it was like the 80s and 90s, and they were really instrumental with British artists using their natural accents.
Yeah, that's shit.
Yeah, because like Australia, like anywhere.
Took us a while.
Yeah, you kind of rapping like American, but they came out like these Londoners with Cockney accents, with all the kind of patois slang and slang, and all the reggae influences, but also it was very hip hop, and I loved it. So Rodney P and Bionic. So London Posse. I won't go in chronological order. I'll just go all around.
Yeah.
Like Dave, of course. Kano. I would say So Solid Crew. Like,
yeah, I've heard that brought up.
Yeah, because they were, even though they were kind of making like UK garage sound, it was very street.
Yeah,
and it was very, like I was saying before, they were banned from doing a lot of shows because they were heavily in the street, and it was that kind of still same energy. So like So Solid. Man, like
you got a Wretch in there, a Nines.
Yeah, I mean, Nines is
Gigs,
crazy.
JME, Scap, Huss.
Man, who did I say? I said London Posse, So Solid Crew,
Dave,
Kano. I know there's someone I'm just like, and when I leave here, I'll be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't say that. Let's say, maybe let's say Skepta.
Yeah.
Because I think, he's just a great artist, but I think also the way he's evolved over the years.
Yeah.
He's still doing a lot of great music, but then, he's doing a lot of kind of fashion and, and again, he was like one of the first to support the boys. Yeah. Like publicly. And I always laugh at when he first came, he went to Culture Kings and 1-4 has that photo with him.
That's crazy.
And then to see how it kind of all turned out.
Leroy's got some. Did he go to a Culture Kings event and he got a photo with someone?
Probably.
Ray Schroman, maybe?
Oh, really? Probably.
Fuck, I think it might have been Leroy. It was someone who ended up actually.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It sounds like that era would have been.
Yeah. What a little hustler he was, eh?
Man. Yeah. But
I think
I think if he was like 5 years older, people wouldn't have let him go where he went.
Yeah,
because he was so young and just had a great energy, and it was his energy was contagious.
Yeah.
You didn't mind him like talking your ear off or trying to sneak into places. Yeah.
Crazy. You mentioned before, do you know who Kano is? Yeah. He's like, you most probably know him. He's Top Boy.
Yeah.
He's the main actor in Top Boy. It's like the leading UK series. It's about like...
Now you know his face.
Dave's in it. Dave dies in it. Oh, fuck. If you haven't watched that season...
Spoiler!
Nah, you haven't watched that season, then don't worry about it. But if you haven't watched that season, they're far behind, eh? It came out a minute ago.
It didn't just come out. It's been out. So, but yeah, Kano's just, again, he's one of those artists that came up through that grime era and again, just evolved. Yeah. And is those heritage artists where he could do an album every 2 years and everyone would love it. It's just proper music and timeless.
Yeah. He was on the original... Top Boy was an old show. It was like 2010 maybe?
Yeah. It was like 7 years before this new series. Yeah,
and then old mate Drake went over to the UK when he was doing Want to Know with Dave. And he was like, well, like, just asked around, like, what's the fuck happened to Top Boy? And Drake was like, yeah, like, Top Boy, like, finished. It didn't have funding. And then Drake, I think it was...
Yeah, because I watched it back then and it just finished. And you're like, oh, what happened?
Yeah, yeah. Stopped. And, Drake was the one who got, like, the funding happening and, like, got Top Boy up again. And now it's, like, best... I think it, like, smashed Netflix last year.
Yeah.
And I think Dave been in it. Like, very good actor, eh?
He is. Very kind of understated actor, which because I think when rappers try and act, they kind of overdo it. But he's just very subtle with his acting and makes him a lot more believable.
Yeah, that was very contagious series.
Yeah,
I couldn't stop watching it. One of those
it was like high blood pressure kind of watching.
Yeah.
Just like continuously like yeah, just getting worse and worse, and you're like, oh man, I don't know how much I can take of this.
Yeah. There was one. You met the Mixtape Madness co-owner.
Quabs. Yeah.
What's his name?
Quabs.
Yeah. Quabs. Now, I've talked about this with people on here before. Do you think we need something like a Mixtape Madness?
We've had
something.
Yeah, like, Hustle Hard TV, shout out to Gunster, like
Body Bag.
Yeah, Body Bag as well. But yeah, I mean, we definitely do. Like, I think the only problem here is it's not like the UK where, I mean, obviously the same artist can do a lot of the stuff, but here, because it's still very small, and you have, because we have like Bars Still, you have the Red Bull 64, and a lot of the times it'd be the same artist because there's not much to kind of draw from anymore. Or yet. But we do need some kind of presence like that where it's very genuine
platform, essentially. Yeah.
And to be able to, for the emerging artists to be on there and that platform to be big enough for people to be like, oh yeah, we're going to check them out now.
Yeah.
I
want to do one. I think it was 2018.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it, man.
Yeah, just kind of want to sort out a few things because it's actually not that hard of a business idea once it's starting. It's quite simple. Like in terms of like the way it works is not overcomplicated. I just got to make sure I get my branding right over the summer. Yeah. And then if I am to launch it, I want to go in with a partner because I feel like focusing on, like I don't get paid from this yet.
Yeah.
So I like focusing on this, trying to get a sponsorship that makes my time a bit more worth.
Yeah.
So then I can focus on another hobby while I can still generate this every week.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's one of the ones I
definitely think like Body Bag was probably
the closest.
Yeah. Just because, especially at that time when Chillin' It and Wombat and Husky and all those guys were starting to come out, and it was like the perfect time to have a platform like that.
Yeah.
And I just remember every time they dropped, everyone would just watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, Chillin' It, funnily enough, we mentioned it before, Chillin' It linked up with Gigs, I think, when he was in Sydney. I remember seeing a photo of that, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and I think recently he RD as well, I think, because Chillin' is one of our premier artists,
Yeah.
So when the UK looked to here and think, okay, who's popping, you'd see the 1-4s. And
yeah.
I mean, you can't deny like Chillin' It in terms of numbers as well is like
kills it.
Probably, at least top 3.
Yeah.
Artists doing those kind of numbers.
Yeah. He taps into. It's hard. What he like? His music is. I feel like some kids they struggle when they're growing up when they want to listen to hip hop. If they listen to 1-4, they'll struggle to relate.
Yeah.
In a sense.
No, he's definitely like
Chillin'
It reminds me of like a
knockabout Aussie kid.
Yeah, a newer version of Bliss and Esso in a way.
Yeah,
kind of taps into different kind of demographics.
Yeah. So there can be a kid in eastern suburbs and there can be a kid in Dubbo, and they can find a similarity they have with Chill.
Yeah, and it was like that with with the Hoods when they came out.
Yeah,
a lot of people were able to relate to them, more than they could any other artist. And you're right, like artists like 1-4, HP Boys or Hefs, it's you're not necessarily going to get that same kind of following as a chilling it, because everyone from school kid to a tradie or whatever will listen to chilling it.
Yeah,
and like you said, he's that knockabout kid, and he's a bit of a hoon, he's that larrikin guy that and we all had a friend like him.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's more what I was thinking. Yeah, everyone knows someone like chilling it.
Yeah,
I've got a mate. His name's Chief. And like he's exactly.
Is that his real name?
No. His name's Liam. But
shout out to Liam.
Yeah, shout out Liam.
Shout out Chief.
He'll love that because he knows you. Like he knows like Hauie. So yeah, he'll love that. Shout out. Chief.
Appreciate you, Chief.
But yeah, Chief. Just chilling it. So chilling it. But I remember watching Get Bodied, and it was him and Talakai on the streets of Auburn, maybe. Yeah. And then it's chill, brother, I'm chill.
Yeah.
Tarantino, What a Kill Bill, and then he does like an Adam Goods bar or whatever. I remember watching that on Facebook because that's what Facebook was back in the day. Eh? Organic content that just anyone like it.
When you put a video out, like Kobe D was part of that.
Yeah,
as well.
That's
that period, like Juwan, like there was a certain artist that were of age when you upload. I think like Cursor was part of the early part of that.
Yeah,
too. And when you put up a video on Facebook, it just went gangbusters.
Yeah. And I remember that. And then out of nowhere, I remember like he just kind of goes, because he was always like a freestyle artist, but like everyone kind of knew him for just those one-off songs that were just bars, overloaded with bars. And then he kind of comes out, he's like, I'm doing an album. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like, this is sick. He was one of the first to like take it on from this new generation. And then I remember being in the car with my mate Tom and John, and Wish You Well, we just played that. I was like, because all the other ones he went a bit deeper and like talked about like his relationship with drugs or his relationship with his mother. But then Wish You Well, and I remember at the time going, oh yeah, he's like, this is genius from him. He's just tapped into like larrikin Aussie, and hip hop's not doing that yet. And I think he'd realised that the larrikin side of Australians also enjoy hip hop. But they don't relate as much. So there's got to be a fine lining as to where you can get.
There's only a few artists that be able to.
That. I think Nerve does it really well. I think Nerve's one of the international pathways for artists like into Australia. I find as well.
Shout out Nerve, man, because Nerve's work ethic is just
ridiculous.
And his generosity. I've worked with him with other artists, and I know like he just backs not any artists, but a lot of emerging artists, because he just loves the work and he loves to be able to do that. You know? So you can't big up Nerve enough because of his obviously he's a great rapper and producer. Like, put respect on his name for his production, but also his generosity. It's like, for me, that's like big thumbs up.
I don't know how he'd feel about this or how Kev would feel about this, but he's very much
shout out Kev.
Yeah, shout out Kev.
Still waiting for Chinatown Champs too.
Yeah. He mentioned that when I was I've had him on. And he mentioned Chinatown Champs and he mentioned a few other endeavors as well that just kind of have gone into the wayside. But with Nerve, like a lot of people have their opinions on him. I'm not sure what yours are, but Nerve reminds me of Russ.
Okay.
Like a self-produced, like say what anyone wants to say about Russ.
At that time too.
True. But say what anyone wants to say about Russ. He did it by himself. To get to where he was. And when you look at Nerve, it's just like he just can do everything.
And I think he's also his dedication and persistence. Just continuously
same with
working.
Russ. Song every week for 5 years or something.
Continuously working, quality, just good energy about him. And him and Fez did a song?
And Fez showed me, and
Nerve did a show here in Sydney, and he invited Fez to come up. They did it, so again, it's Nerve's generosity that is a big plus for me.
Actually, he did show me. It was here when I was with Marvs and Honcho and AF, I think. Or we were on a Helos shoot, either or. And I remember, we were going to the servo. There's a servo like 2Ks that way. You go out and you go left and you go over those bridges. And we were driving there to get food for the studio session, and he put on that. He put on a few other ones as well, Fez. our mutual connection, for anyone wondering, is CG Fez. My first guy from the music industry to give me a chance, and he hopped in a Helos shoot at Ropes Crossing, out of all places. And your Fez is under forever ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just personal connection as well.
Yeah. Forever ever. Just quickly, that's your label?
Yeah. It's a joint venture with Sony Music. Yeah.
And so you've got Hoodsy.
Yeah.
TikTok marketing genius.
Yeah.
She kills it on there.
Yeah. We talked about it before, how like the young generation just take to it. You know, and I think when you when it's part of your everyday life, I mean, not everyone connects with it, obviously, but someone like her, like she's perfect generation to kind of really take it on, and she's just natural with it. Funnily enough, she's a lot more shy than she comes across in social media. Yeah. Like when I watch it sometimes, it's like almost like a different person. Yeah. And when I see her perform as well, and I think a lot of artists are like that.
Yeah.
Kind of introverts, but then when they're on stage or doing their TikToks or whatever,
when there's cameras,
performance,
or eyes, they can bring it out. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
it's very it's like an opposite type of thing.
Yeah,
you'd think they'd be loud when there's less people around, but they're quieter, and then when there's more people around, they're more happy to bring themselves out. And Becca Hatch, who I kind of think is like a Ray Black, Georgia Smith type of vibe.
Yeah, she grew up in Southwest Sydney. And grew up singing R&B. But as she grows older, there's more influences coming through, like the drum and bass and Miami bass and kind of disco and house, and like R&B will always be a part of her DNA. But I love that she's able to try other genres, kind of bend it a bit.
Yeah. And then could we? Is Fez? Obviously Fez. Shout out CG Fez. Yeah, I hope Fez releases some of the music he's got locked away in there. He's a rapper, as we've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else signed a label that I've forgotten?
Kenzie from Welly. She's an artist from New Zealand.
Yeah.
She's got an album, and like hopefully next year we'll be able to put it out.
Yeah.
She's an artist that I've known for a long time, and I just love her music and her writing, and she's she's just exciting.
Yeah.
And hopefully the people will enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah. How'd you go? Like, how was it starting your own label?
It's kind of nerve-wracking because, again, it was just an opportunity that kind of arose, and I just grabbed it. Like, shout out to Patrina again. She brought me into the Sony offices, and with at that time the climate changing in music. Yeah. And me doing the show and me being a part of the culture and the community, they wanted to bring me in to kind of represent that and bring artists in. And then, we had discussions about the label, and it's like, I want to do it. And, because at that time there was only a few. Yeah. And, and during that whole process, that's when I was started to work with 1-4 because I wanted to sign her, but obviously that didn't happen. But that allowed me to be able to work with artists and kind of trust my gut on the kind of artists that I wanted to sign or mentor or back. It's again, the music industry. It's like there's expectations. Like, what do you want to get out of it? And for me, it's always been artist driven and creativity.
Yeah.
Where some people might be just money and numbers, which is cool too. But that's not my.
You're an originality guy, aren't you?
Yeah. And sometimes that's a long road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in order to build an artist that is original and going against the grain and not riding waves, it can be a long road, but it's longevity. We talked about gigs before, like just sticking to his road rap stuff when people were making pop songs, but he just stuck to his thing, and eventually he got there, and that's what I want to do with my artists, and just build like a long lasting career for them. And I tell them often, I say, like, at this point you're an artist, and you should be the best artist you should be, but also realize this is just a start. You know, because for me, I always just wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah.
But then all these other opportunities came up, and I took them, and you know, now I'm here chatting with you.
Yeah.
On this podcast. You know what I mean? You know, so
life goes by quick, eh?
Yeah. You know, so yeah, it's great to see. It's just great to be a part of the story and try and, you know, my job is just to facilitate their vision.
Yeah.
You know, and try to interject with my knowledge and experience, but ultimately it's their journey.
Yeah. And just quickly, it's 9 o'clock now. We're going for a hot minute. Your book came out. King.
Yeah.
Life, Death, and Hip Hop.
Yeah.
How did that all come about? First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate
That's a crazy accomplishment.
It is like I mean, even now when I kind of look at the book and I'm holding it in my hand and then to be able to give it to my parents, you know, like it means a lot. And big shout out to Christopher Riley, he's the co-author. It was actually his idea to do the book.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know,
shout out Chris.
Yeah, Chris. You know, like, and you know, obviously he I feel like he did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah,
because all I had to do was just kind of talk about my life and kind of trying to remember things, and he's the one that kind of had the right questions to ask and then put it all together and try and make it sound like me as much as possible, and then send it to me, and then I would kind of make edits. Yeah, because you know, when you read it, you want to hear me saying it. Yeah, or if you actually get the audio book, I'm actually saying it, so you don't have to read it. I
must probably grab that tomorrow night. Actually,
yeah, listen. Yeah, it's a good listen because there's other voices in the audio book as well, and music. So yeah, like Christopher Riley's like, you know, I tell this story often. You know, he talked about writing the book of hip hop in Australia, the history. Yeah, and I had actually thought about it, and then he said, "Actually, have you thought about writing a book about your life?" And I was like, "Nah, I never thought about it at all." Because you know, I think being a musician, you're kind of doing that anyway. You're putting a lot of your life in there, and it is like a long version of a book. Yeah. You know, so I
suppose enough interviews and podcasts on top of it as well. Like
you're able to kind of piece together, and that's why there's a lot of stories in the book that people don't know, because you know, I'm not the kind of person to unless you ask. Yeah, you know, I'm not put my business out there like that. But all these stories in the book do contribute to, you know, the character of who I am today. So it's important that I had him in there, and there's a couple of hairy stories in there that I think a lot of people would be shocked to discover. Yeah, because you know, like yourself, you know, a lot of people don't even know I was an artist before radio. They just know me as a radio host. Yeah, and they find out that I was an artist before, and they're like, "What?" And then now with the book, you'll discover who I was before that. Yeah, you know. So it's a good read, man, and then had a lot of great feedback, and it's easy to read because it's like how we're talking now. Yeah, you know, it's nothing too deep about it. It's just like you know, easy. A lot of people say once they started, they couldn't put it down, and for me, that's like the biggest compliment. Yeah, that's a massive compliment. Yeah, how long did that take to get together? I think I heard Christopher say it was 18 months, and that sounds about right, because I think we started coming out that first lockdown in 2020. I think. Does that mathematically make sense? But anyway, you know, it was a mix of me doing 20,000 things. Yeah. And then trying to make time to chat and stories, and then reconnecting with people, and then, you know, connecting with Chris and writing it and editing. And I mean, I haven't read that much since high school, I think. You know, just in that amount of time, like, okay, we got 3 chapters, we need to read it by this time with the edits, so like get cracking it. I'm crazy. Like, get into it. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I can't imagine doing a book. I can't. Well, you can't now. Yeah, maybe when I clock a bit older. Give me 2-3 more decades. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the things that you're doing now contribute to that story. Yeah, that's true. You know what I mean? I kind of clocked myself today, thinking about that. So I was like, fuck, like, you are the Godfather, you know, of this scene. And I was sitting there, I was like, and I still work around my local area,
and it's the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking, like, fuck, like, yeah, this is pretty cool what you're doing. Like, because you get lost in the work. You know, if you know what I mean.
No, you definitely do, and you know. And you do, because you just put your head down and you do your work, especially, and like, you know, I keep talking about it, passion. You just keep going and going.
Yeah.
And, you know, occasionally I would, you know, people would say, "Oh, you done this and that," and you just kind of like, yeah, but then you just keep working.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was like this book and doing the audio book was the kind of the real first time I've actually, because I think I was saying it out loud. What I've done, and
a big reflection.
And it was like, oh wow, like, you know, I have achieved a lot of these things, and it's been, you know, very fortunate life, you know. And I think, you know, what you're doing now is like the early parts of that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I think everyone has a story to tell, and it's relatable in a way. And I'm just kind of, just because I've been around for a long time. You know what I mean. And someone actually said it the other day that really blew my mind. Was, you know, in the States, in the UK, they have a lot of text, a lot of books that they can refer to, like music and art and culture.
Yeah.
But like this book would be like one of the first.
Yeah, it is. No, it definitely is.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, obviously we can look at Spain's book, and there's a lot of kind of books that are put out by lecturers as well. But, you know, these are the kind of books, like Miss Hennessy as well, like put out a book, like these are going to be the first texts for like generations to kind of look back and go, oh wow, is this what's going on? You know,
it's crazy.
Yeah, when they brought that up, it made me realize, like, holy shit, that's right.
Yeah, because books live on different to digital media. They're not made to be released at a certain date every week. They're just, that's the one-off release.
Yeah,
because in a podcast you can talk about modern happenings and like perfect examples. Like, you could talk about an artist 2 weeks later, they've done some of the most fucked up things, and then that whole conversation goes out of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like a book, it's just so different. It's just, I'm launching like a sporting thing separate. It's like a brother brand to Helos, and I've been reading a book based on like the Super League, the the storm of the Super League, and then like the downfall. And that came out over 20 years ago. Yeah. And I feel like I'm there in the offices of the ARL and of the Super League, like Murdoch versus Packer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like,
that's a crazy time.
Yeah. Well, like for our age group, like we don't even fucking know that happened.
I think it was like the biggest jerseys they ever had during that time.
Yeah.
So like now it's all like spray painted. Yeah. They had like the XXL jumpers and stuff tucked into the jerseys, you know. But yeah, that was a pretty wild time. Yeah. You know, and the grand finals too didn't feel like grand finals. Nah. Because it was too late. You was like, oh yeah, what is this, you know? Yeah.
Anyway, I've been reading books, like old books, like Les Murray, like football. Basket, like I found it in an op shop actually, a 1993-94 guide to the NBA released the week before the NBA started that year. Wow. And what happened in 93-94, obviously history. So all that type of shit. And when you mentioned the book before, it kind of hit me like, well, that will be like, some kid will be like me in 20 years and be looking for music and recognize the name. Same with Spanion's book, especially Spanion as well. And Miss Hennessy, was it? Yeah. And like those will end up in places at bookshops and stuff, and kids will go, "Oh shit, that are interested in music."
2022. Woo.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah. And it'll live on through that, which is crazy. It's sick.
You know, it is wild to think that, but I love that thought. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thought. Now, just last thing before we head off, because I think we've gone a bit over time.
Yeah, you might have to edit this one. Right?
No, I'm not editing it. I'm not editing a thing.
You'll be like, "What 2 hours? I'm not watching this."
Advice for people in their for the younger generation, like just one piece of advice you've got for the younger generation.
I think this has always been my piece of advice, like throughout many generations, but I think it's like applicable now more than ever. Yeah. And it's simple, and it is cliche in a way, but like being yourself, like that is just very. It's interesting because when you think of that, it's like, oh yeah, be yourself. But it's actually one of the hardest things to do. Yeah. be yourself, especially in this era of social media and expectations and views and streams. Like being yourself is one of the most important things you could do, because there's only one you, and you just need to be the best version of yourself. And I feel like when you're yourself, you can never lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not always. I always say that when you move with good intentions, like, you will never lose. You may not always get the wins.
Yeah.
But you will never lose, because you're just always true to yourself and what you believe in, and your morals and your standards. And it's like that piece of information is I feel is important.
Yeah.
And something that you regularly have to check in.
Yeah.
Yourself about, like, when you're doing stuff, are you compromising yourself?
Yeah.
Because you do have to compromise every once in a while.
Yeah.
It just depends how much.
Part of life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like relationships.
And what for?
Yeah, what for? Relationships, like, she just loved me because of who I am. It's like, yeah, I get that, but there's two of you, not one of you.
Yeah.
And you have to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But and you meet in the middle by being yourself and understanding that. So yeah, just be yourself, be honest with yourself, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right. That's a big one. That's a massive one. Everything will be all right. Yeah, that's all really. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on, Howie.
Man, pleasure.
Honestly, appreciate it. It was a bit of a shit show before we started. We got here early to set up, and one thing we didn't do was set up properly.
Yeah, I'm from the 90s where we had to sticky tape microphones together. So, like,
yeah.
That is no thing. Trust me.
But yeah, before we go, Howie, your book, where can they find it? That's a big thing.
Yeah, King, you can find that. You can order it online. All the good bookstores have them as well. So, no excuses not to get it.
Yeah.
And the audiobook is out there. I read the whole thing. So, you can be in your bedroom at night and I'll talk you to sleep.
And then Howie based on Instagram, of course.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter. Not really on Facebook that much. I just started going back on there because I had to. But yeah, I'm out there.
Yeah,
I'm at the gigs. Like, if you're at the gigs, I'll be there.
Yeah, come
say hello. I'm reachable. So
yeah. That's mad.
So thank you for having me, and thank you for this platform.
No worries.
For the community, because it's important. Like, everyone plays a part. And, this is just one of many. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's a very big compliment to someone from Wimberley and to know they're contributing to something like this.
You are, man. Don't underestimate yourself. Right?
Yeah, thank you. As always, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We're at, like, small achievement, but my first podcast hit 1K views on YouTube the other day.
Yeah,
that was big. Yeah,
you gotta count those little wins, bro.
Yeah.
It's all building.
Yeah,
so you gotta count them.
So yeah, subscribe, like, comment on Instagram, all that good stuff. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. That's where you can find it. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for hopping on, Howie.
Thank you.
Peace.